So I was called to program this ECU. So what we are going to do is this L200 2020 ECU. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the flash and the EEPROM data down. Then after connecting it, I'll read the flash and the EEPROM data down. Then after that, I'll do the DPF of this diesel vehicle. So I'm going to do DPF off for this ECU because we are having some issue with if you watch my previous video, you will see the issue. So this is a denso SH72543, which is for L200. So I'll connect it and wait. So when you are using multi-prog, you have to get a strong internet because most of the things that it does, it has to connect to the server before it can do when it comes to ECU reading. But when it comes to MCU reading, that one you are good to go. So if you can see the connection, there is the PCM type, which is for HN14, and I was even surprised that it was able to do it easily. But just that anytime you are reading, put it in mind, it doesn't do checksum, so you have to find for a software that will do checksum for your file before you write it onto the ECU, or you have to let the software editor to do the checksum for you before you write it onto the ECU, because although it can read it, it doesn't do checksum. So if you check the connection, you can see that. And one thing I like about the multi-prog, it shows you the current going into the ECU and everything. So now I'm going to open the I'm going to open the file that has been modified for the ECU so that I can write it onto it. So I'm going to write the modified data onto that ECU so that we will try the vehicle and see if we'll be having anything. So I'm writing the flash for the vehicle. So that's the flash that I'm writing to the vehicle. So when I'm done writing the file, it takes a little bit time, almost like 6 to 7 minutes. During the writing process, multi-prog compares the file and you see the sectors that are not the same and change them. So you have to get a strong internet to connect because you can see it reads the chip ID or the type of ECU that is working with, and you can see the current, the power going to the ECU, which is 0.25 amps. So that means the ECU is communicating. When you see the number, that means the ECU is communicating. So you can see it red. So when the sectors are the same, it just skips them. Then when it gets to the point that it needs to read, or it needs to read the file, erase and edit the file, then that's where it delays. So we wait for it to finish reading, and so far so good. Although apart from the AC decals ECUs that multi-prog is not able to do, which I know they are doing an update on it and working on it to do, most of the ECU you throw up to them is able to read it. And one funny thing also is one tool can't do it all, so you have to get different other tools. But if you have this as a beginner, it will help you do most of the work. So with this one, I'll wait for it to finish the ECU reading. Then after that, I'll go and put it on the vehicle and start and see if my DPF off will go, if my DPF will turn off. So we are doing for the DPF and the and the AdBlue system, or DEF system. So we have deleted it on the file. So I gave it to a friend to do the editing for me. For me, I'm not doing the editing for now, but I have people who do the editing. So with this one, I'll wait for it to finish writing and everything, and you can see the current changes because multi-prog has this thing that it switches in between current, and it's a good tool. It helps you know what is going on. So if your ECU is not communicating from the current or from the DC power, you're able to know that your ECU is not communicating because it turns off and turns on. But when there is no activities going on, there is no current going into your ECU. So with this, you can see now I'm at 79. So I'll wait for it to finish with the ECU with the flash writing. So I really like multi-prog because it can do most of the things that it says no tool can do 100%. So now I'll wait for it to finish writing. Then I'll move to the next stage. So it looks like it's almost done. And I spoke to the client, and the client agreed that we should do that because we've done the DPF cleaning, and we've cleaned the DPF, and still the problem was still persisting. So I gave him two options. So he opted for this. He opted for us to do the DPF off. Then after that, we found out that the car wasn't pulling at all. So I told him that he has to give me time to do diagnosis on the vehicle. Give me the vehicle and let me work on it. But for now, we did the DPF off and the light wasn't coming up again after this. So yeah, I think this one, it took like 7 to 8 minutes for the writing alone. Yeah, normally some of the ECU, when you are writing them, it takes much time. So this one, it took much time. So all I have to do is to be patient with it for it to write the data. Then from there I know what to do, because after writing the flash I have to go and put it on the vehicle to start it and see if my ECU will be okay. So as at this point I'm waiting, and sometimes multi-prog is a bit slower depending on the issue that you are working on. Sometimes it's a bit slower. I don't know how it writes, but I think it delete and write, delete and write, delete and write, so it makes it a bit slower. And you can see the current going to the ECU has reduced a bit during the writing process. The current going to the ECU has reduced a bit, and you just have to be patient with it. So soon we'll be doing some online training section. Then we will know the next thing. We'll be doing the online training section maybe from next month upwards or something. We'll be doing online training sections. So when the time is up, I'll inform you guys so that you can join the training class. But for now, we are trying to read the ECU and it is done. So when it is done this way, you have to wait for the process to end and everything. Don't mind my being in Chinese, is because my multi-prog device is in Chinese, the Chinese version, it's not the global version. So that's what I get. But when I'm doing the MCU and the EEPROM writing, it is in English. It's only during the ECU that you get this Chinese writing. One thing I like about multi-prog, it tells you the time spent during the writing process. So you can see it spent 7 minutes 8 seconds and 40 milliseconds. So now I'm done with the writing. So I'll just go and place the ECU on the vehicle and make sure everything is okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it and compare the file and make sure that the sectors that I wrote, or the tool was able to write the sectors successfully. So I have to compare the two files and make sure everything is okay after the reading. So you have to wait for it to do the reading so that you'll be able to compare and be 100% sure that the job that you are going to do will be a success, or the file that you've written has been a successful writing. So normally it's advisable to recheck and confirm the files, because now that I'm reading it, I'm reading the flash that I've written on it. and whenever the flash is done reading, I can compare it with the one that I wrote on it. And if it tells me that the ECUs are the same, or the flash data are the same, then that means my write was successfully. And even if I try to write it again, because the data is already on it, it might skip most of the writing files, most of the writing sectors. So it will skip all the writing sectors. But for now, I'm trying to make sure that my file that I've written is successfully. So I'll wait for the tool to finish reading, then I'll do the comparison to make sure everything is successfully before I move to the vehicle. So it will just tell me, I'm just pausing it. When it is done, I bring you guys back. So it is now done, and it's just going to tell me the minutes that it used in reading the file. So you just wait for the section to end, and whenever it ends and there is no communication with the ECU, you see the DC power current going to 00 because now there is no communication current going to it. So you can see now it has gone to 00. So this one is left with the software to do its own work. So you can see it's telling me 2 minutes 51 seconds. So now I am done with the reading. So what I can do is go to compare my file and make sure that the file that I wrote is perfect and the file that I wrote, there is no difference. So you can see it's telling me the two files are the same. So that means my writing is done successfully. And I have a video on this same vehicle, the solution of the problem was this was not able to fix it. So with this one, after writing the DPF off, the client says he doesn't want it again, so I have to rewrite it. And there is the diagram. So before I do the rewriting, I have to read the file first. So I have to read both the internal flash and internal EEPROM first before I do the rewriting. So I'll do that. Let me minimize this. No. Then do the read. So I have to read the internal EEPROM and internal flash and save it. Then now I write the original file data into it. So without internet access, you can't do any of this. Now it is done reading the EEPROM. It was fast, so it's done reading the EEPROM. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the flash also. Then after this, after reading the flash, so you wait for it to connect. If you don't have a good internet, it will not work, or because it has to connect to the server and do 1 or 2 calculations. And you can see the moment the voltage starts to change or you hear the relay clicking, that means it is turning it on, and you can see it is now reading the flash. So you can see the chip type, that's the SH72543. So I'll let it do, then I'll restore the customer's original file onto it. So now it is done reading the flash on the ECU. So I'll do everything, rewrite the client's flash onto it.